Welcome back to Garden Hoard NZ, and this is our first month of winter update, and it'll be the first in a series of monthly updates for this channel where we track the garden through the seasons here in New Zealand, record what's growing, we'll tell you what's failing and what the conditions are doing in real time. So buckle up folks, it's gonna be a ride. So right now here in New Zealand, it's the Winter Solstice, and so far it's been a cool but fairly stable start to winter. We've had some light rain, cooler soil temperatures and steady growth in some crops while others have slowed right down. So in this update, I'm going to walk you through each of the beds. I'll show you what's happening. We'll go through some of the weather data and have a look at what's coming up in July. Before we dive into looking at our garden beds and talking about the crops I've got in at the moment, let me just give you a quick rundown on what we've got for the weather this month. So our overnight lows have been sitting around sort of 7 degrees Celsius. Our daytime highs reaching about 16 degrees Celsius. Air pressure at the moment is roughly around 1014 to 1020 hectopascals, which has given us some pretty settled weather overall. And the wind, well, the wind's been mostly coming in from the southwest, which is pretty typical for this time of year here in New Zealand. It cools things down a bit and keeps things nice and crisp. And what have we got for humidity? Humidity sitting around 80 to 85%. Pretty high humidity here in Auckland, New Zealand, which helps keep moisture in the soil even without any regular rainfall. And talking of rainfall, the rainfall this month has been, we're looking at about 71 millimeters of rain so far this month, so it's not been too wet, but it has been enough just to keep everything damp. So it's a pretty typical start to winter for us at the moment. So overall, conditions are being good for establishing the winter crops and getting everything off to a good start. So let's now head over to the beds and see what we've got growing. Alright, so here we are at my raised beds. So these raised beds, they tend to run at the moment during the start of winter about 15 degrees Celsius, which is pretty good soil temperature for the raised beds. I keep this black ground cover on there just to keep moisture in, you know, and the weeds out, which is working really great for that. So now as we look at these cabbages here, these cabbages went in as plugs at the end of autumn. So they're not heading up yet, but that's to be expected at this stage. They're still young seedlings, so but the growth is good and everybody's happy. Now we move on to the peas. The peas in this bed are putting on some good upward growth. These peas were planted as plugs also towards the end of autumn and are establishing well. And as we move into winter, they are looking in very good spirits. We've got the carrots. So these carrots, they went in around the autumn time. We got them growing and they're looking pretty good in these here warm beds. They're not there's not a humongous amount of upward growth on these ones at the moment, but that's pretty normal. Most of the action is taking place under the soil. That's where we're getting good root formation and plenty of downward growth. So what I've done here with these carrots, I've planted them also in this weed mat. I've put the holes in the weed mat there and sprinkled the seedlings in there, and I haven't had to thin them too much, but we'll be thinning them later on and as we progress through the season, and we'll take things from there. Alright guys, now here we go. Look, let's move on to my in-ground bed, and in this bed is, yeah, I got more peas. I went a bit pea mad. But before we get on to the peas, here we go. Look, I've got some more of these here cabbages. These are Brunswick's cabbage, by the way, if you're wondering. And these ones went in a little bit after those other ones there as plugs as well. And they're looking pretty good. They're just started to bounce back to life now. And we'll see how we progress with those later on in the season. But as I move around here, we're going to take a look at these here peas. Now these peas went in about a week later than the ones in the raised beds, and to be quite honest with you, they're actually looking a little bit better. I'm wondering if we're going to get better peas out of these ones than in the raised beds, but we'll see. We'll keep you updated. But the temperature in this bed is running at about 14 degrees Celsius, so a little bit 1 degree cooler than the raised beds, so that's quite interesting. But they're all looking pretty good, and we'll see how things progress with them later. Alright guys, now look, as we move around here, we're moving up into the potatoes. I've got these potatoes planted in me banana patch. I'm doing a wee experiment here with these potatoes. I've got them in bottomless pots. I just placed them in the bottom of these here pots here and just filled them with the autumn leaves. And then they're going to grow up through the leaves. I'm going to top up the leaves as I need to, and then that'll be it. Once the potato foliage dies back, then I'll harvest the potatoes. So wee bit of an experiment. We'll see how we go. I'll definitely be keeping you posted. Keep you posted on that one. So there we are, team. That's it for the first month of winter here at the Garden Hoard NZ. There's nothing spectacular happening just yet, but there's plenty of encouraging signs. Things are growing, everything's establishing well, and they're laying the groundwork for the months ahead. I've got a couple of experiments going, and they're looking pretty good. Now we look to next month, the second month of winter. What we're going to do next month is I'm going to start sowing the onions. So I'll be sowing the onions in the trays. Maybe the peas start flowering next month, we'll see, but certainly they'll be climbing, they'll be getting taller, and we'll be seeing how the potatoes progress. So looking forward to it, team, and stay tuned. More updates to come. See you next month.